right, very cool. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Brittany Giles. I'm the tech ambassador here at KW. I feel like I've met you before, but that's okay.
Yeah.
How many faces do we see in our business?
I'm a power canner, so
Okay.
I could have been at one of the events or something with GHR or something. I do volunteer with that sometimes.
Oh, okay, definitely. We probably bumped into each other then, so welcome. Today we're going to go over 6 personal perspectives. This was actually one of my favorite classes that I took as an agent. I'm just going to, oh, Nathan, how do we go back here? There we go. And basically the 6 personal perspectives is really just to help get our mindset in the right frame of mind. So I've been telling people Q1 is going to be here before we know it for 2022. So why not start that off on the right foot the best we can with not only the right tools and resources, but the right mindset. So if you have your booklets, go ahead and just turn to the first page where it has mindset is key. There's a little box with Gary Keller. And I'd love it if anybody would want to read that out loud for me. No volunteers? That's okay. I've had like 4 cups of coffee today, so I'll go ahead and read it. Mindset is key. So Gary has said when you interview the very top people and ask them what their biggest challenge is, invariably they will tell you that it is mindset. Keeping it strong, focused, and a positive mindset, the many challenges they encounter every day on their way to the top. Gary continues, life is an inside to the outside experience. When you get this at a deep level, you realize that who you are inside determines and drives what you are on the outside. The very best achievers know this and therefore truly work on and protect their mindset. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we're going through all 6 personal perspectives, but especially for today. What's that? I will in just a minute. So over the next couple of months, there's going to be 1-hour class. Can you guys hear me okay in the Dave Hook room? Thumbs up. Okay, Connor's calling me. That's why I was asking. So the next couple of months are going to have 1-hour classes, 1 a month, going over the 6 personal perspectives, and they're listed here. Today, we're going to talk about committing to self-mastery. The next class is going to be committing to the 80-20 principle, which I believe Dave Hook has kindly agreed to teach. Step 3 will be moving from E to P, taught by Kim Bull. Step 4 is make being learning based the foundation of your action plan. And I am trying to convince Tracy Georgiak to teach that for us. I know she's listening. So I can see the look that I'm getting from her via Zoom. And then step 5, remove your limiting beliefs. And then step 6 is to be accountable. So while we all have a minute, I'd love it if you would just ask yourself 3 questions. Or not 3 questions, but what are the 3 things that you would like to accomplish in your life? So just think of 3 goals that you have. It could be business or personal.
Financial freedom.
Someone just said financial freedom. That's a great one. Anybody else like to share maybe a personal goal, business goal? So Mike Braddock wants to get his seaplane license. Can you, what does that mean?
SEA plane. Wow. It flies on the
Oh,
continental-
C meaning to fly on water. I was thinking the letter C, like a
Yeah.
model.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
he wants to be able to fly and land on water, right? Anybody else? Cricket? No, it's okay. One of my big goals would obviously also would be financial freedom. But a fun personal one, just to kind of keep it light in here. I really want to be able to take the girls to Disney World. So that's a big goal of mine. And I can't do that without financial freedom. So that's one of my top goals. And then we have a video for you to watch. Let me just grab that. Did anybody get the email last night with their homework? Oh, look at Phil. Phil's like, me, I did it. Yep, anybody else in here? Oh, Mike Braddock did it. All right, awesome. So don't worry if you didn't watch the homework. It's only a couple minutes long, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it for you here. Let me just. Is it up? Yeah.
The double knows small business owners who do almost everything deserve an insurance company that does too.
Imagine a big explosion as you climb through 3,000. Imagine a plane full of smoke. Imagine an engine going clack, 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 clack. Sounds scary. Well, I had a unique seat that day. I was sitting in 1D. I was the only one who could talk to the flight attendants. So I looked at them right away, and they said, no problem. We probably hit some birds. The pilot had already turned the plane around, and we weren't that far. You could see Manhattan. 2 minutes later, 3 things happened at the same time. The pilot lines up the plane with the Hudson River. This is not the route. He turns off the engines. Now imagine being on a plane with no sound. And then he says 3 words, as unemotional 3 words that I've ever heard. He says, brace for it. I didn't have to talk to the flight attendant anymore. I could see in her eyes, it was terror, life was over. I want to share with you 3 things I learned about myself. That's it.
I learned that it all changes in an instant. We have this bucket list, we have these things we want to do in life, and I thought about all the people I wanted to reach out that I didn't, all the fences I wanted to mend, all the experiences I wanted to have and I never did. As I thought about that, later on I came up with a saying, which is, I collect bad wines. Because if the wine is ready and the person is there, I'm opening it. I no longer want to postpone anything in life. And that urgency, that purpose has really changed my life. The second thing I learned that day, and this is as we clear the George Washington Bridge, which was by not a lot, I thought about, wow, I really feel one real regret. I've lived a good life. In my own humanity and mistakes, I've tried to get better at everything I've tried. But in my humanity, I also allow my ego to get in. And I regretted the time I wasted in things that did not matter with people that matter. And I thought about my relationship with my wife, with my friends, with people. And after, as I reflected on that, I decided to eliminate negative energy from my life. It's not perfect, it's a lot better. I've not had a fight with my wife in 2 years, it feels great. I'm no longer trying to be right, I choose to be happy. The third thing I learned, and this is as your mental clock starts going 15, 14, 13, you can see the water coming, I'm saying, please blow up, right? I don't want this thing to break in 20 pieces like you've seen in those documentaries. And as we're coming down, I had a sense of, wow, dying is not scary. It's almost like we've been preparing for it our whole lives. But it was very sad. I didn't want to go. I love my life. And that sadness really framed in one thought, which is, I only wish for one thing. I only wish I could see my kids grow up. About a month later, I was in a performance by my daughter, first grader, not much artistic talent, yet. And I'm bawling, I'm crying like a little kid. And it made all the sense in the world to me. I realized at that point, by connecting those 2 dots, that the only thing that matters in my life is being a great dad. Above all, the only goal I have in life is to be a good dad. I was given the gift of a miracle of not dying that day. I was given another gift, which was to be able to see into the future and come back and live differently. I challenge you guys that are flying today. Imagine the same thing happens on your plane, and please don't. But imagine, and how would you change? What would you get done that you're waiting to get done because you think you'll be here forever? How would you change your relationships and the negative energy in them? And more than anything, are you being the best parent you can? Thank you.
Where some see a baker,
I see artist. I see Bridget of Bridget's Bake Shop.
All right, so after watching that video, I'm curious if any of your 3 things might change. So your 3 top goals, would any of them change after having that perspective? What would you change? How would you change? And what would you do that you are waiting to get done because you think it'll be here forever? So just kind of reflect on that. If anyone's willing to share, I'd love to hear.
So I'll share. None of my things changed. It was actually really cool to see that they didn't change. One thing that I would do differently though is that, his first statement was that just urgency. So, he has urgency in his purpose now. So one thing I would change is just making that purpose more urgent. We think we have more time. We don't.
I love that. I used to administer family medical leave for a company with 30,000 employees nationally. That was my previous life before I got into real estate. And it was always so heartbreaking how many medical leaves I did for people that were almost to retirement. We were this close, but then they got diagnosed with cancer. And their family medical leave would come and go, and they couldn't come back to work because they were terminal and there was no way for them to get better. And I'd talk to them on the phone and they'd say stuff to me like, Brittany, I was waiting for retirement to do this. I was looking forward to my retirement so I could travel Europe. I was waiting for retirement so I could do all of these things. And then they were realizing that that was no longer reality for them. So sometimes you have to be reminded that, we don't know how long we have. So what are some of these goals that we can do and maybe achieve them quicker? Because every day we wake up is a new blessing. With that, you wrote down 3 goals. I'd love it if you could pick one to be your main focus to keep that into perspective as we go through the 6 personal perspectives the next couple of months. And then as we go through this course, we're going to keep reflecting back to that one goal. And by the end of the series, we're hoping that you're going to walk out with a set of concrete tools and resources that you can use to implement immediately. You'll have a success list, a 4-1-1-1, time blocking resources. I know for some of you that's like a curse word, but we're going to help you with it. You'll have a learning path and accountability partners to help you get there. Would anyone mind sharing, how do you think learning about these perspectives and mastering them can positively impact your one goal that you want to achieve? So by learning the 6 perspectives, having a better mindset, do you think, or how do you think that's going to help you achieve your one goal?
I'm sorry, but one more time.
Sure.
Were we looking at these 6 when you asked that question?
Yeah, any of the 6. So how is learning and being part of this series, learning the 6 personal perspectives, how will learning and mastering those 6 help you achieve your one main goal?
Gotcha. I think you get more focus.
You get more
when you have time
focus.
to think and let things settle instead of learning to take control of your emotions and reactions to be more productive.
Yes, that's a great answer. So for those of you who didn't hear, she said, is going to help you take control of your emotions. A key word that I love that you used was how you react and having control of the things that you use for that goal in summary. That's awesome.
Yeah, you could almost go to page 9 and write down how each one of those contributes to your goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
I couldn't hear anybody else. I'm just checking.
Oh, okay.
You have one goal, okay, obviously, you want to master that.
Oops.
Tiger Woods
So
is
you are.
in 5 different sports. Chose one.
Yes.
Obviously, that's
I can't go to the screen.
Sorry, folks, we're having technical difficulties. As your tech ambassador.
You do.
We joke about that around here. I am an ambassador, right? So I help promote. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm techie. That's my scapegoat.
Still the techiest person we got, Brittany. So.
Yeah.
If you all saw my new computer screen today, posted it in my Facebook stories, I feel really techie. It's like a 34-inch monitor.
You sit across the room to see it.
Oh, I'm gonna come in and like play Call of Duty or something with John Walsh.
Is that your answer to number 3? Yeah.
How do I feel? So yeah, so you want to definitely go through, ask yourselves these questions so we know what our goal is. Drew Richmond actually taught me this. So they call it a reality check here, but Drew Richmond taught me clarity breaks. And I think that's something that I've implemented, and I do this not just in class, right? We're taking this reality check right now, but taking an hour a week and just reflecting back on your calendar and then reflecting forward to determine, what's my goal? How am I doing with my goal? Are the time blocks in my calendar the last week contributing to my goal? Or was it full of things that are more like distractions? And I think taking that clarity break actually does so much for you, because if you only do it quarterly or monthly, you might be too far astray. And you might actually be hurting yourself. So I think if you do this weekly, you can keep yourself in check, especially if you need an accountability partner. But it's very easy for us to fill our calendar with the things that actually aren't helping us attain our goals. So if you look back weekly, you can really say, okay, how am I doing? How do I feel about that? And what will it look like in your future if you don't achieve your goal? You want to just kind of reflect on that, because as you're doing things, maybe making excuses to not do the things that you need to do, how is it going to feel 10 years from now if you haven't achieved your goal because you allowed a bunch of roadblocks to get in your way?
I'd be dead with a heart attack.
Well, we don't want that. We don't want that.
That's where I'm gonna end up.
Anybody have any ahas before we move on to our first 6 personal perspectives? Julie.
Not so much an aha, but interesting. I just out of that million reasons, it's that red book that James Shaw gave us, Million Reasons Successful. How I think it's 1,000 ways successful people think. Yeah.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just read the part, and I read it to our group about Sunday night. I'm taking a time of reflection doing just what you just said. Like there's 25 questions, which I think was a little much, but I was like, wow, Sunday night to reflect back. So that being that you just brought it up, I found that interesting. I think it would be a great practice.
I always wonder why when I start my week over.
Right, exactly.
What am I not doing? You think you're doing something right,
Yeah.
you make one little change, but it just doesn't get to that point.
Yeah, so it's sort of the same thing, what was good, what worked,
Yeah.
what didn't work, did you say thank you to somebody? It just was really, really good, so I'm glad you brought that up. And they suggested that Sunday evening.
Yeah, Sunday
Yeah.
evening is a good one. A couple of us on the Dave Hook team, we joke that Drew, I think definitely started it, was like the mask, wear a face mask,
Oh, yeah, you gotta do some self-care when you're doing it.
Yeah,
Brittany, can you hear us?
I
I have-
can.
I have an aha to share if you.
I would love it if you shared.
It's kind of a dark one, but it's the thing is that guy, when I wrote down one of the things that I want to accomplish, it was taking my mom on a big trip. Like I want to take her somewhere super cool, like not just Florida. And I realized that used to say, send my parents on a trip. I wanted to pay for them to go on a really big trip. And just like the guy said, you think you have all that time, and I didn't get to do that. And so I know that I have this goal now, and I have been limiting believing myself of like all the reasons why I can't do that right now. That I'm hoping that this helps with that.
That's so good. That's so good. And sometimes it takes
But I realized it when I wrote it down.
pain
Yep.
to really understand what you need to do.
And baby steps. Me and we ordered food because we don't ever eat. I come home, there's never any food, and I was, kids are gone. So I said, we gotta do something. So I said 3 days a week. So we ordered from like one of those places that bring you the food and I said, we're gonna cook together, have a glass of wine, 3 days a week.
There
And
you
Make an
go.
appointment to do it. I said, I just gotta change somewhere.
Yes,
Because it's just constant, nonstop. I just don't want to continue that.
right.
It's hard to break habit when the more and more you're in it.
It is hard. We never, the one thing that we say often is it's simple. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And changing that mindset and getting out of the bad habits takes work. It takes work. Well, those are great.
If I could share just real
I
quick,
would love it.
we're not too long. But this reality check is self-accountability.
Yeah,
And, if you're a leader and you're holding somebody accountable, this is precisely what you're saying, do it. And the reality check here is that we have to hold ourselves accountable. I like the second sentence that they have in here. It sounds like I'm yelling. With right there on page 13, it says, without this reality check, many people are under the delusion that they are further along than they actually are. Not only that, but you may be under the delusion that you're getting results that you're not actually getting as well. And without doing this, are you really tapping into what's it going to be like when I don't achieve this goal? Oftentimes, just on a daily, weekly basis, we lie to ourselves, is the point.
all the time.
And if you do this exercise, you can't lie to yourself. You're like, what happens if you don't achieve it? How does that make you feel? You can't lie to yourself if you do that, right? What will the future look like if you don't achieve the goal? You can't lie to yourself if you're
Right.
asking yourself that question. It's
Yeah.
like a very powerful self-accountability tool.
Mhm. Well,
And
and
it's
I,
again, working on a habit, a good habit. To
right,
do that and constantly do that, because it's easy to get the bad ones, but again, it's work.
for sure. No, I love that. And people always say it, but my husband says it all the time. It's the definition of insanity is doing the same
Yeah.
thing constantly, but expecting a different result.
Why do we find it so hard to do good things for ourselves? It's so easy to do bad things. It's just,
That is a loaded question.
That's I know. I can take a whole hour to answer that question.
God, it's just so easy to just let it go, but.
And I think that goes back to, you can't pour from an empty cup. So that's why we're here, right? We can't take care of our clients to the best of our ability. We can't take care of our families to the best of our abilities if we ourselves are empty. So that's why we're here. Those are all great. So step one is self-mastery. And self-mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make you the master of you. So when you commit to achieving self-mastery, you know your goals, which we just chatted about. You know your strengths and your weaknesses. And you know how to work with both your strengths and weaknesses to seek and master the necessary knowledge, skills, and habits to reach your goals. Mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make one the master of a subject. So just for an example, we're in the world of real estate. So one of our main things that we have to get, or we need to master at, right, is prospecting. So what are some strengths and weaknesses that you might have with prospecting? Anyone think of anything? What's a strength? I'm looking at Julie because I know when I think of prospecting and lead gen, I think of Julie. I think she's so good at it with her scripts.
Well, the strength would be the scripts, knowing what to say. Knowing what to say gives you the confidence. Once you have the confidence, it's easier to lead gen and get into conversations, you know. The weakness would be that time block is non-negotiable, and you got to get that into your head. With all your clients, your family and everything from 9 to 12, it's non-negotiable. Appointments start afterwards. And so I never go on appointments, but do I let an email or inquiry about something that's not in my lane sneak in on that time? Yeah, I would, so the time is blocked. I just have to remind myself, to remind everybody that I will not be calling you back until noon o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe a weakness could be self-discipline.
Yeah, self-discipline or removing myself. The ideal thing is to remove yourself away from the computer, go somewhere to make those calls where there's no distraction whatsoever. So I don't know what's coming in, or using the office phone, so I don't have this in front of me.
Right.
Yeah, the temptation. to
Right.
be looking at it.
And it's so simple to fall into that. So looking at these three puzzle pieces, if your goal is to master prospecting, and maybe your strength is scripting, and your weakness is self-discipline, how could we put that together? What could we do to help put those three things together to make the puzzle pieces of the puzzle fit? So one thing that I think of is if with scripting, you have to practice every day. Like you can be good at it today, but if you quit practicing, you're probably going to start to lose your scripts. So I would say practice scripts might be the first one. If your weakness is self-discipline, I would say maybe accountability, getting an accountability partner might be that middle piece. And then maybe even taking like a class like Bold would help you put those pieces together. So you play on your strengths, but then we learn to help put our weaknesses, strengthen our weaknesses and putting them together. Does that make sense for everybody?
Do you want to see if Dave's team has any examples?
Yeah, Dave Hook team, do you have any examples on strengths and weaknesses that you have to put together to achieve self-mastery?
Do I have anything for her? I already talked. You guys have to do the rest of it?
I'm personally thinking of Andrew Johnson. The negative of being on the team before, I know you all pretty well.
What's the specific question, Brittany?
So could you give me some examples of strengths and weaknesses that you've had to utilize to help you be a master at your craft? Whether it's listings or setting appointments, conversion. And I think of Andrew Johnson because I know that he practices his scripts every day.
Yeah.
Become a master at it to then achieve his ultimate goal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here, Brittany, so thanks for putting me on the spot, but.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, strengths and weaknesses to help you achieve your goal. So, piggybacking off of what Julie said, obviously mastering your scripts. I often say that it's not only what you say, but it's how you say it. And, coming across as almost like I always kid around and say that my goal is to have a beer on a porch with everyone I talk to. And a challenge of mine is just being adaptive and a chameleon to the people that I'm talking to. If that makes sense at all. But that's the best I got.
What's a weakness that you've had to overcome?
Just mindset around that. Limiting beliefs on myself,
Well, you're in the right class.
for sure.
Now, thank you for that, Andrew. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but I knew you would have something really great to say, so I appreciate it.
Andrew, can you have that?
You got it, Brittany.
Yeah, so I think can I just share real quick?
I would love it if you.
I think the overall objective there in that exercise is we know what our strengths are, we know what our weaknesses are. There's a third piece to the puzzle that we need for mastery. And if you go back to page 18, mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits. So the third piece that's missing is usually knowledge or training, skills or training, and habits, which is discipline. And again, you could use resources for that as well. Your point was giving accountability partner.
Yeah.
But the third piece is usually one of those three things. Well, 18 is technically a notes
I
page,
saw that.
so 17.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
G'day, I'm Bruce Hardy, and I'm committing to self-mastery. You know, this is one of the main 6 perspectives that I think we all need to focus on, particularly if we want to take our business and our lives to the highest level. You know, when I was younger and lived in Australia, a good friend of mine was a black belt in karate. He invited me to participate in karate, so I joined. I was a white belt, and after about 6 weeks or so, we were one day practicing sparring. And it was interesting because we were throwing a punch, relatively simple, straightforward punch. We both knew how to do it. The idea was that you would throw the punch and you would stop 2 inches from the other person's face. So my friend, the black belt, would do it, and he would snap, his gi would snap, and I had wind hitting me in the face, and it was just beautiful the way he threw it. Then it was my turn, and I got down and I went whack, and I watched my friend fall to the floor because I hit him instead of stopping 2 inches in front of his face. We both knew how to do it. He'd mastered it, I had not. I will tell you, I brought the same approach to my real estate business. I realized my focus had to be on listings. And what I did was, by focusing on my listing presentation, practicing over and over and over again, I was able to list over 250 homes a year. There's a wonderful saying out there, and that is, amateurs practice to get it right, professionals practice to never get it wrong. My question to you, are you an amateur or are you a professional? Commit to self-mastery.
I don't know where Nate's mouse is on this laptop, so we're just gonna let that go. So as Dave Hook team, you get to hang out in the top middle of my screen here. But so an exercise after watching that video, what are 3 obstacles you think might hinder your achievement of the goal that you wrote, the main one that you've been thinking on this whole time? So Julie Hess mentioned an obstacle of allowing people to interrupt her lead gen time.
Just gonna say distractions.
Distractions is a great example of an obstacle. Andrew Johnson mentioned mindset and limiting beliefs, which is a great obstacle. Anybody else? Mike Braddock, what might hinder you, or what might be an obstacle for you to be able to fly seaplanes?
Well, the discipline to follow through with getting the opportunity to do it by being distracted with other things. It comes back to distractions and discipline. And one of the things like in the video that I really got off.
That resonates with me so much. One of the things that used to be a pretty big obstacle for me was like things going on in my personal life, right? So when I first got into business, I was going through bankruptcy, I was going through a divorce, I was dealing with learning how to co-parent, and that didn't always go so well. And sometimes I would bring that to work with me. So I would be supposed to be in lead gen time, but then instead I'd be all worried about the stuff that was going on in my personal life and letting that negative energy truly prevent me from making money, right? Because I wasn't able to really be present on calls. I tell people all the time, when you're in lead gen mode, and you're on the phone and you're dialing, all the people on the other end of that line can feel your negative energy. Even if they're not in the room, they can feel it. So the more positive you can be, and you have to turn off what's going on in your personal life so that way you can be present in that moment, can be a life change in itself.
I know in all aspects too, it saved my marriage doing that, just not from that, the things that didn't matter bother me.
Right, right, can save relationships for sure. I love the analogy of wearing hats. So when I come to work, I've been assisting with making recruiting calls, and that's been tough. Like, how many people can we help today that maybe they're stuck in their business and they can't grow? But I get nervous, and my limiting belief stops me from being able to make those calls. So then I just envision myself, I'm gonna put my recruiting cap on, and I listen to some music, and I get hype, and I just say, you know what, I'm gonna help someone today. I'm gonna help someone grow their business, and I get real positive. And then those are the days that I'm able to set appointments, and I can actually really help somebody go through their business and find the holes and what can we do to help them get over those obstacles. Versus the days where I come in and I'm like, meh, I don't want to pick up the phone today. Well, do you think I'm going to set an appointment with that attitude? Absolutely not. And not only is that hurting myself, but that's hurting everybody else, right? I'm not helping someone today who needs it because of my negative mindset. Does anybody else have anything they'd want to share? Dave Hook team, anybody else on Zoom?
I have noticed that the music that you listen to makes such a big difference. I can't listen to upbeat music, like super upbeat music in the morning. I have to be more calming, like actually like spa music or something. I'm not as anxietied out when I do that, and I noticed that helps.
Okay, so changing the type of music you listen to.
I can listen to hip hop music and get all excited in the morning because I'm just in my mind just goes even crazier.
I actually tend to in the morning, like on my way to work, I listen to an Audible book. So like something that's leadership related, business related, something that's going to help me get in that mind frame of, okay, I got to take charge today.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. We have to be very careful what we allow. I call it my mind space. I look at it as a computer. So what is it in my mind I need to start delete. And what is it that I'm letting in? And so I've become very protective over what I'm watching home around, what am I listening to? Because, you said you want to come in with a clear mind, be positive, who is that I can help today? And yet at the same time, if I'm, 11 o'clock at night, looking at the phone and reading the news, which is the same thing over and over. Yeah, I mean, you really only need to check in every 6 months. It's the same stuff, but it's a habit. And now all of a sudden we allow that in instead of good stuff in. So yeah, for sure. I think what you listen to, what you watch,
what you surround yourself with.
Yeah. What you start your day with.
Exactly.
End it with in general.
Exactly.
Gratefulness at the end of the day, whatever.
Yeah, that's another thing, practicing gratitude every day.
Yep.
The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I have my cup of coffee. Obviously, if you know me, you know that I'm a coffee addict. But that's kind of like my morning meditation. I sit there with my cup of coffee and I just enjoy that very moment. I'm not thinking about emails. I'm not thinking about what's on my calendar. I'm just waking up in that moment and appreciating it. And then I just go through, okay, this is what I'm grateful for. And I'm a very, like, I gotta write things down to absorb them. So I journal it every day, the things that I'm grateful for, and how am I going to practice gratitude throughout the day? What's gonna keep me in focus throughout the day? So that way, when something negative does enter our world, because we can't control that, right? We can control it to a point by listening to positive books and listening to positive music. And yet, right, we've all had the deals that start blowing up for something that we just didn't see coming. So how can I remain positive and calm and not let that negative energy affect the rest of my day? That's perfect. Do you think that there are any obstacles that are movable? Roadblocks that you can just say, you know what, I'm just gonna push this to the side and get it out of my way.
Me, I think they're all movable. That's just me.
I love it. Julie says all obstacles are movable.
Yep. Yep. Mindset.
Mindset is everything. One of my items, I have my 6 personal perspectives book from when I took it a couple years ago, and I loved reflecting on it. I'm in a different seat now, so it kind of feels a little different. But one of my obstacles that I needed to move was just allowing me to free up more time. So maybe leverage, right? Like an admin, a showing assistant might be a way for you to move obstacles out of the way. For you, Mike Braddock, I don't know what that would be. Could you give me an example? Is it real estate that's getting in the way of you getting your C license?
No, it's me taking the time,
Taking the time. So the obstacle there
You
would
have that
be,
training, you gotta make appointments for that training, you have to go to that, those fly lessons.
Right.
so
Takes
is
a lot
it,
of time.
is the
I have my
roadblock, the lack
license.
of time blocking?
I have my license, but I need to get rated for, that's probably 15 hours, hours of time,
Okay,
which is not a lot. but
So it's scheduling it.
It's scheduling. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so you gotta call and see what kind of scheduling. Work with you.
so you just gotta do it,
Just
Mike
gotta do it.
Braddock.
Yeah.
Gotta do it.
Get out of your own way.
What exactly is this? What exactly are you allowed to?
Well, I think to suffer.
So how
Oh,
can you time block?
so Mike Braddock just mentioned a really
Yep.
good one. And he said that sometimes what really holds him up is being too selfless. He's giving everybody else his time.
And yet, if you were on an airplane that was going down, what's the first thing you're supposed to do?
Waste my time.
No, you're supposed to give yourself oxygen first, and
Right.
you can help.
I never
others.
understood that. I didn't, I said, I don't know if I could do that.
Could everybody hear Julie and Mike's conversation? No? Okay. So Mike Braddock mentioned about he's selfless and he gives up too much of his time to others. So maybe taking on too many commitments. Somebody asked you, hey, can you help me do this on Saturday? Mike Braddock says yes. Hey, can you help me do this on Friday afternoon? Mike Braddock says yes. Hey, on Sunday, can you help me with this? Mike Braddock says yes. Well, now he has no time to do his practice, his C class hours.
And then he'll reschedule it because it's really not all that important.
Right,
You
so
know,
he
what's
keeps
one more day?
rescheduling. And then Julie Hess asked the pilot in the room, well, Mike, what are you supposed to do if your plane's going down? You're supposed to put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. And that's exactly a part of self-mastery. We talked about you can't pour from an empty cup. If you keep giving and giving and giving and giving and not leaving time in your calendar for yourself and to do the things that are going to help you achieve your goal, at one point you're either going to be burnt out And then when you get burnt out, you're not gonna be able to serve others well. You're not gonna be able to serve your clients well. You're not gonna achieve your goals. And how is that gonna feel for you and your family when you can't get there because you've just spread yourself too thin? Dave Hook, team, and anybody else on Zoom, any other ahas before I let you go on with the rest of your day? Anybody else on Zoom?
Hey, Brittany,
Yes.
Bonnie Ware, I think that's her name, she's an author from Australia, she's a palate cleaners.
Okay.
She helps people that are dying. She wrote a book about the top 5 regrets of dying. That's in the book.
Okay.
And it's a great perspective on, and almost always they say, we wish we would have done this, we put this off, we put this off. We put so many things off, we think my time was limitless. And we're dying. So the Bonnie Ware book, top 5 reasons, top 5 regrets of dying. That's great.
It's funny, just a few days ago, my a good friend out of the military, she lives in Colorado, she has an amazing Halloween party every year. And I've been putting it off, I went a couple of years ago, putting it off. She goes, oh, please, please, please come. And I said, yeah, I'm coming, and I got a ticket. And I
Oh,
just feel
good.
so good about that because I've been, she's a really good friend, so doing something and just doing it because there's just no time better than now because.
Now, I always tell people.
Yeah.
We are given new opportunities
Yes.
every day and and yet we're only given like new chances every day, but only one life.
Right.
So we have one life with a lot of opportunity, a lot of chances. And we only have one life.
And I don't want to go to retirement and say, what did I do? Like my mom,
Right.
that happened to my mom. She
Right,
died before she got into it. I didn't want that because she got lung cancer. So that won't be me.
right, right.
But
No, that's perfect. If not now, when?
yeah,
That's a great one.
and you just gotta get the ticket. You just gotta get the reservation. That helps.
That's a great one-liner, guys, for all of you to learn. Brittany, I forgot about that. If not now,
If
when?
not now,
Yeah.
when? So Drew, are you gonna put that in your calendar? Is it in your calendar yet?
Paid for it, done, gone.
I love it. That is so good. All right, folks, well, make sure you come to the next class. I appreciate everyone's participation today. I know it's a little hard with this whole camera thing, not fully being able to hear everybody. So I appreciate everybody's patience with us on the Zoom end.
Brittany, this worked out perfect for us, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate it.
You're like on one big screen here and then the slides are up on another big screen. No.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing that in Carlisle, so you guys could all fit it in your schedule.
Are you
I'll-
gonna send the Zoom out every week? Like, can you send the emails out?
So the next one is November 18th, 11 a.m. The 80-20 principle taught by the David Hook, the one and only, the great
You?
Dave Hook.
Ooh.
Yeah. As soon as I saw 80-20 principle, I was like, we need to get Dave Hook in there to teach that one. So, all right, folks, thank you so much. If you have any questions or need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Thank you for speaking.